Hello, I'm Colin, and I did an analysis of the Lightning Thief musical, which you may have seen before, may have not. But since that analysis came out, they did a concert where they performed some cut songs from the show. I had opinions on those too, so I've decided to make a video on those as well. First off, spoiler warning for both the Percy Jackson series and the Heroes of Olympus series, so be careful about those. Moreover, you should watch a live stream prior to watching this video, because unlike last time where I used direct clips from the show and like lyric by lyric analysis, this is just going to be paragraphs of my opinions, and if you haven't watched the live stream you won't know the songs, so it'll just be me talking about things you're not aware of. We'll try and make it enjoyable, and for some reason you're still here and aren't going to go and watch a live stream, which you also should watch because it's fantastic and fun, but, you know, just so you know, watch the live stream. That said, there are timestamps in the descriptions if you want to skip to my discussion of any particular song, but otherwise, it's time to begin.
Oh, look what I just did. Must have combusted the plan that you had. I've been tracking your trail. You've been giving me grief. Now look you what I got when I caught myself a lightning thief. I know. Saving your mama's life. And everybody wins 6 schools in 6 years. I've been kicked out of every place.
Well, I'm glad he's willing to admit that making Ares and Hades into one megavillain is an absolutely terrible idea. Though I understand why he would want to do that from a musical convention standpoint. I actually don't mind the song from what he heard, and I'm not even opposed to the title drop. It makes more sense to me than some of the title drops in other musicals. The idea of Good Kid being Percy's song at the climax is a cool idea too. As I mentioned in the previous video, I like how Good Kid is Percy's I Want song, but is positioned not at the beginning of the story, but rather in reaction to the events of the story. Having him wait to sing until after most of his journey is complete works too, but that also would mean that Percy's main realization is that he can be a good kid, as opposed to his realization being that he and his father aren't so unlike and that he can make the most of the bad hand he was dealt. Both work, sure, but good kid happening at the climax of the show doesn't reflect the themes of family that is prominent throughout the series, as much as it does a general theme of anyone can be good if given the chance to, which is also a theme throughout the series. Think of Luke's character arc for the most prominent example, though Hades, Nico, Tyson, Grover, a bunch of other people do have it too. It just is less important and nuanced and fun as the notion of the different types of familial love and their importance. So yeah, I definitely prefer how things ended up, but this is a cool look at how the concept for Good Kid as a song began. So yeah. One thing the musical didn't take advantage of in its final form is how it could have left Percy's perspective, while the book is very, very firmly grounded in his POV. This song is an interesting premise of jumping into Luke's POV to show us how camp is gearing up for war, something mentioned to be happening in the book. My stance on the song, it's cool. I like the lyrics. The jokes are funny. Selena's hesitance is cute. Clarice's referencing the title of the last book, The Last Olympian, is a cool meta way of showing how headfirst she's willing to dive into this conflict. Like, bring on the war. Let's jump all the way to the giant fight that is all of Book 5, despite not even being finished all of Book 1. Luke's role as a mediator is relatable, but it also feels a little bit too genuine to me as it appeared in the show. Like, he is responsible for the fight breaking out and does want it to happen. He definitely would be trying to hide this fact, but I like to think he'd do that by staying out of the conflict, not trying to broker peace, because if he accidentally successfully brokered peace, well then he doesn't have a plan anymore. He just accidentally solved the problem that he purposely caused and can't overthrow the gods. The premise of this song is probably one of the only ways the musical suffers from the small cast. It's just hard to effectively do chaos breaking out and everyone forming their own complex alliances with a cast of 7 people, and only 3 of you can really use for this scene. No matter how talented the cast is and how many key changes you throw into the song, that's just hard to do with 3 people. But I really like the premise. It's a cool thought, and, you know, you tried.
Take the weight from my shoulders. Take the weight from my mind. From my mind, it's weird. You're making me uneasy, we're both a little broken. But maybe you can see me, it's weird, but a good weird. I just can't let go.
Wow, the Percy Beth is strong with this one. So the song definitely reflects the core of Percy and Annabeth's relationship. They have to rely on each other to bear the weight that burdens their quest-filled lives. This seems especially true given much later into their relationship, like when they're thrown into Tartarus, aka the worst place in anywhere, together and holding hands as they fall. I would like to note, though, that I think I prefer the song as a Percy Beth duet than an Annabeth solo piece, which is what it sounds like it was going to be. I can't exactly tell, though, as the composer sang it himself at the concert. I just feel like it's somewhat against the feminist tones that are inherent to Annabeth's character to have her be like, I need to rely on you, without having Percy say the same thing in response. It's definitely a two-way street of saving each other's lives over and over and over again. So the song would be amazing for, say, a Heroes of Olympus musical or a general Percy Jackson-inspired album, though I don't know how I would have felt had it been in the musical itself. It's just too intimate for book one of the series, not to mention that Annabeth is way too proud to admit her feelings for Percy even later into the story. The last Olympian won't even directly tell us if they're dating, just heavily implying it via mentions of them being coupley and kissing and such. I don't mind Percy and Annabeth being a bit more romantic like they are in the actual show, but I think this is going way too far, if I'm being honest. Musicals can forge romantic bonds quicker than other media, but the emotional intimacy and how exposed this song leaves Annabeth's character is just really heavy and not something that smart, proud Annabeth would do with someone she met 5 minutes ago. Also, allow me to briefly state the obvious. The metaphor of the weight of being the weight of Atlas is clearly an allusion to how in Book 3, The Titan's Curse, Annabeth bears the weight of the sky, as does Percy. So, yeah, really cool use of those scenes, good metaphors, and all in all, it's an amazing song, but just doesn't feel like it fits into Lightning Thief, which explains why it isn't into Lightning Thief and was performed at a concert for it. So, yeah, good choice. Sorry that you had to cut it, but, you know, great song. You did a good job.
Theseus, Odysseus, Orpheus, Perseus, it's obvious they're all the same men. Now their names are international, they're reckless and irrational. And will someone ever notice my name?
So for those who didn't watch my last video, I spent like 5 minutes of it discussing my grand plan, as I found it weird how Annabeth's song didn't mention architecture, which is the answer to the question of how she plans to be remembered in the novel. This different opening actually recolors my opinions of the song quite a bit, so allow me to explain why. With this opening in the mind, the song now expresses her desire to be properly chronicled as a hero, a female hero, which is something that definitely would not fly in Greek myth, where the stories were often existed just to justify/support the Greek way of life, which was very patriarchal and sexist. Women in myth tended to either be idealized versions of obedient women, think Persephone, the wife of Odysseus in the Odyssey, or characters who demonstrate why women shouldn't be trusted with power. Think of Demeter, who casually causes all of mankind to almost starve to death when Persephone is gone, as her emotions just get the better of her. Persephone being her daughter, not the wife of Odysseus I just mentioned. There's a finite number of Greek names in myth. Sorry. Moreover, female heroes are also oddly not a thing in Percy Jackson's Greek mythifying of history. I recall Harriet Tubman was being noted as a demigod, but beyond that, most of the historical figures that are canonically demigods in the Percy Jackson universe were also male. So yeah, Book Annabeth's focus on architecture makes sense for her, as she's concerned about being remembered and wants to be remembered through her architecture. But I also get musical Annabeth's struggle, where she's just like a still step before that going, well, I might just not be remembered as the deck has been historically stacked against my gender, and I just want to be remembered somehow. I don't care how or when, I'll figure that out once the chance arises. Here's a quest. I can win it. I can be remembered through this, hopefully. And later, one assumes her character would discover that architecture is the way she'll be remembered at a different point in time. So they basically just had this be a snapshot of an earlier anxiety fear of Annabeth that wasn't addressed at all in the book, which probably should have been. Moreover, as the song is sung on top of a training montage where Annabeth teaches Percy how to fight, there might be an additional allusion to how Greek myth has developed in such a way where females are blamed for things they weren't blamed for in the original story, and therefore in the Percy Jackson universe, the true version of the story. One oft-cited example of this is Pandora. In the first version of the myth, she was given a jar from the gods with no other instructions and opened it because, okay, a god gives you a jar, you're not going to open it? Modern retellings of this myth tend to turn Pandora into Eve from the Bible by claiming that she was told not to open the jar, or box as it's often modernized into, and was therefore disobeying orders, and her curiosity is responsible for the downfall of mankind. In other words, the retellings turned an innocent girl who was unjustly tricked by the gods into a dumb girl whose curiosity called the downfall of mankind by disobeying said gods. You know, definitely one looks a little bit worse for women while the other looks a little bit worse from the gods. With this in mind, Annabeth teaching Percy to fight takes on a slight, well, if we mess up, I'm the woman who the narrative is inherently going to blame, so I'm not going to sit back and let you not be ready to fight anything that comes our way, seaweed brain. At least, that's how I interpret it. I fully admit that this is on a fuzzy line between analysis and making up a new headcanon about Annabeth's motivation. If it's intentional, that's awesome, but the only way to find that out would be to ask Robert Kristen. In conclusion, I do somewhat still miss mentions of direct architecture, but this opening makes me respect the song a lot more. I mean, I already loved it before as an empowerment anthem, but this makes me really like it as an Annabeth anthem too. So yeah, all around good interpretation. Sorry for being mean to it last time. I hope I was at least fair when I was being mean, but yeah, like the old opening too. I didn't talk much about the cast in the last review. I was really focusing on the writing of the book and the writing of the show. So I'll just say now, yeah, the cast is incredible. Incredible, jealousy-inducing amount of talent right there. Good job. And also, as I didn't weigh in it on the main video, I'm also going to give my formal opinion on if I believe this show is going to get a sequel based off the last song talking about I'll be back next summer, I'll be back next summer, I'll be back next summer. I lean towards no, if I'm being honest, but I wouldn't say never. Simply put, Broadway sequels are really hard to do effectively. One has to cater to both audiences who saw the previous show and those who haven't. And unlike movies, you can't go and rent the Broadway show and watch it at home. You can listen to the cast album, but that's not quite the same thing. Moreover, The Lightning Thief has a very small cast, which would be really hard to do with the way the book casts work. By book 3, there are 9 different people who have been on / are going on quests that are relevant to the story, and we definitely have to expand their roster greatly as actors leave for bigger projects and characters come and go. You know, since Grover misses out for most of book 2, Annabeth most of book 3, Talia is introduced at the end of book 2, but then is in all of book 3, gone for book 4 and back for 5. Tyson is in 2, 4, and 5. Rachel's introduced in book 3 for like 2 pages, then is prominent towards like the middle and end of book 4, then is prominent throughout all of book 5, etc, etc, etc. It'd be hard to get actors on board with that sort of come and go, especially bigger names. I imagine it'd be hard to be like, say, do you want to come be like chorus minor roles for most of the story, but you get to be super prominent for the 3 seconds you get to play your character again, eh? Overall, it's just Broadway doesn't serialize as well as other mediums. Plus, The Lightning Thief musical does just kind of feel like an overall Percy Jackson musical to me, given how it has references and lines from the later books, so I don't know if they would want to do a sequel. Then again, Rob did in the live stream mention they cut like 27 songs from Act 2, so if he had decided to do a sequel, I'd say he'd have the entire thing written already. I still don't think it's going to happen, but there are lots of moments in the books I would love to say musicalized, like the confrontation between Annabeth and Percy and the Sirens in book 2, which could make an awesome dueling score as the Sirens tempt them with soothing music, and Percy tries to get Annabeth's attention with a harsher music and dueling music stuff. I'd love to see the more emotional Grover of the musical respond to the return of Talia, the continuation of Luke's evil, not evil, evil again arc, a villainy song based off the scene in book 3 where Aphrodite discusses how she's been longing for a good tragic love story, as that's just so sadistic and cool and sounds like the type of thing an evil villain in a musical would say, as, you know, musicals talk about love a lot. Zoe Nightingale's inability to keep up with the evolution of the English language that has in the book, see how that translates to musical score, as you could have her sing like Gilbert and Sullivan-esque music and have other people still be responding in the rock score that we're used to for the show. there's just lots and lots of really cool stuff that could still be turned into a musical. However, regardless of how much I can talk about it and how I would love it and be amazing, I still don't believe it's likely to happen. It's just Broadway doesn't serialize well. Though I will state, if it was going to serialize, probably be a good idea to, start with something where the sequels are already pre-written that leads itself to it, as opposed to Grease 2 or Bring Back Birdie. Both of which are things that actually exist. I mean, Grease 2 wasn't on Broadway, but still, they're things that exist. Don't check them out. It's a really bad idea. Anyway, thank you so much for watching me fanboy for like 20 minutes. I know this was a little bit less analysis-y and more just kind of review-y than the previous one, but I hope it was enjoyable nonetheless. Do please watch the live stream in the description if you haven't seen it already and decided to watch this video first, you rebel, ignoring what I told you to do. But it's fine. I respect that, I'm okay with Children of Aries watching this video too. And again, if you disagreed with anything I said, do remember, it's absolutely fine. Because I'm just Colin, it as I see it. Cheers, guys. Hello, Editor Colin here. Sorry, it just occurred to me that in the main video, I forgot to talk about the fact that the show is going on tour. So yeah, that is happening. That is awesome. I'm very glad that they're doing that. Personally, I do not live in America. I am in Canada. I'm Canadian. So it doesn't really increase the chance of me seeing the show, unfortunately, but it's great for the fact that it's going to get the show out there, it's going to get more eyes on the show, so that's cool. Yeah, I'm down for that. Generally, it makes me feel that there's maybe a higher chance of the show ending up going back to New York to get a Broadway run, maybe, with some tweaks. I feel like that is what the tour indicates. The show isn't, just now dead, which is good. But yeah, otherwise, that's really all my opinions on that. It's cool. Yeah, it's really good. Hope some of you guys watching do get the chance to see it who otherwise wouldn't have been able to. So, and while sitting there, be like, man, Colin isn't here. He's in Canada. Sucks to be him. Yeah, so that's all I have to say on that. So that is truly everything I had to say. I'm very professional, as you can tell. And yeah, so if you disagreed with anything said in this video, please do remember that is fine, because I am just calling it as I see it. Cheers.
I am the widow's minotaur, and someday soon